Here we go, kids. We're going to be off and running, or maybe we'll be flying with Jen and the birds.
I think that's a fun idea. Let's go flying with Jen and the birds. Hello, everybody. You guys, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us. Again, we are so grateful for every single live we get with you guys, every video we get to make and share with you guys. And thank you for leaving comments and being part of this family, as this family has existed for 9 years. 9 years. And gosh, where will we be 9 years from now? Oh, man. What will the Earth look like 9 years from now? You know what? That's 2035, guys. That's a big year.
It is. It is. What will the Earth look like? We have people coming in. Good to see you, Israel. Good to see you, Robbie. Hello there, Dana Green. Hi, Ron. Everybody, hello. Miss Shelley, hello.
Joe Powder, good to see you. Hope everybody is having an awesome Saturday. It is kind of a weird day. It's got a really weird vibe. It looks like it could rain at any point in time. It feels very kind of like one big waiting room. Doesn't it kind of have the feeling like there's something big coming? And we're in the process of something huge. It's just a wild time.
Yes, and let's see who has those funny symbols today. Ron gets a funny symbol today from what we can see on our end. And we have a pretty little bird just landed on our window and said hello to everyone. So, yes, there must be a bird magnet in the house because we have birds that feel it. So you guys are just wonderful.
You know, I always end with a saying, Loka samasta sukhi no bhavantu, which is Sanskrit, means may all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may my own words, thoughts, and deeds contribute to their freedom and their happiness. I want to put it at the beginning. Let's put out their blessings to everybody that partakes, everybody that listens, and everybody that shares in this live stream, because we are all contributing to this reality. Every single person is extremely important. This reality is for you. It really is. It's a blessing.
Oh my gosh, Israel, thank you so much. I'm excited to see the world, what the world is looking like in 20 years. Ecstatic to be here now. Awesome sauce, Israel. So excited to be working with you here in a few days, too. It's a lot of positive change going on in a lot of people's lives. Martine, good to see you. Rewinding to watch the whole thing. Well, that's very kind. Miss Melanie, hello. So the Babylonians called it Nibiru, and it was turned into a silly tale, but it's real. The crossing is that word means. Yeah, I mean, so much stuff going on in this time. I mean, so much information in the bowl, so many irons in the fire, right? Just so much information. What do we really focus on? What's important? I think that's what we need to ask ourselves. What is important?
Every day is important. Every relationship with each beautiful person is important. And every day we are creating our own reality. And from what we've gotten from the guides, you might not think that, you might have the thoughts that, well, my life is just pretty ordinary, pretty typical. And thank you so much, Israel, always for your support. Israel has been such a strong contributor to the channel and has always been there for us. And it's been a blessing to really get to know him and to watch the spiritual growth. And, it's just exciting because, it's amazing how when you're on, and this, I'm going way off on a tangent here, but when you are listening to the higher self, when you start to really pay attention and decipher what does the higher self want me to do, then things start you have all these synchronicities that start happening. And instead of having those, Murphy type days, Murphy's law, No, it's kind of like the opposite. There could be things that are like, well, gosh, how are we ever going to pay this bill? Well, something happens. We've had that happen so many times. When we took the step to always be true to the higher self and to be looking to be in service to others, because something will always happen. Something will always happen to kind of work out right. And again, it's looking deep into every circumstance in your life and looking for the positive nuggets. It's again a little bit of, looking at the glass half full, or knowing that the glass is going to fill up, as opposed to that half empty, approach.
Right. And every single one of you that we have worked with, it's not just a session. If you do have a session with us, it's so much more than just a session. We really get to know you on a particular level where we meet you wherever you're at, no matter what your belief system is. And I think that's very important, to keep all of that information, the information highway, open, because this is where blocks can form, is in through the belief system. And, everyone's soul contains so much information, and a lot of times there are certain traumas in there, or you've had things in your life go on that you really can't talk to anyone about. And we do have a vast array of experience that we can add to it. And I do use astrology to work with people and work and see where they're at in their lives, and see what is upcoming, see if there's anything blocking the path, and what those remedies might be. So again, we don't just do a session. We really mold with you, and we get to know you. And you guys have been such a blessing. Those that we work on regularly, you guys are awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen, too, for the review. Again, if you're so inclined, check out evolutionaryenergyarts.com and learn more about what we do when we're not doing videos, which we do have many hats. So right now, one of those hats is homesteading and raising chickens, and the chickens are out of the living room and they are in their own house now. So today was a big day. They're 5 weeks old, and the chickens are out in their own house, and tomorrow we'll let them run in their own run, and that's a big step, and it's been exciting, and I can't wait to do a lot more planting. We have a lot of things planted, but we have many hats. We really, really do. We work with people every single day with energy work, and once you're part of the family, you're part of the family. Now, let's look at some of the news going on before we delve deep into the Nemesis star system and all that, which is a real fascinating subject. By the way, the real reason why I want to talk about that was we had it pop up in our feed, a video talking about the Nemesis system, and it wasn't about that and the Sumerian cuneiform writings that are attributed to some knowledge of that system. It was what our guides gave us. That's the thing that I take stock and value in, because they've really been guiding us for so long, and giving us amazing nuggets to meditate on. And we did get some verification that we'll go into later in the video. This is really crazy and sad. A loud boom, then screams. I thought we'd die. Frontier crash. Passengers reveal terror at being ordered to flee a smoke-filled cabin. Yet another plane issue. There was a horror on board a Frontier's airline flight bound for Los Angeles when it struck and killed a person walking on the runway at Denver International Airport Friday night. Denver International Airport, remember all the murals at Denver International Airport? Yeah, that was strange in and of itself. Released a statement confirming that a person had jumped the perimeter fence near the runway and was hit 2 minutes later at 11:19 local time. The individual's dead has not been identified. They don't believe it was an employee. The person was at least partially consumed by one of the engines of Frontier Flight 4345. An official confirmed to ABC News, blood was visible in the impacted engine of the Airbus A321 as seen in photos circulating on social media that the Daily Mail has chosen not to publish. Mohammed Hassan, one of the passengers, gave an interview. Honestly, it was the scariest experience of my life. I was on the flight, I looked to my right, and I just saw a fire. I heard a large boom. People started screaming. I thought I was going to die. Hassan added that he and others on board were stuck on the plane for about 3 minutes before evacuation began. He said they inhaled a lot of toxic fumes and passengers were screaming. This is just horrible. I don't know, why have we had so many of these incidents with airplanes? It's just been something happening all the time.
It is. It really feels very creepy, with everything that's going on with the airplanes and, the whistleblowers being unalived for whistleblowing and, the gas prices and all the threats where, there's not going to be enough gas for jet fuel pretty soon. A lot of stuff going around. I don't know. It does feel like they are trying to lean people away from flying.
It certainly does. Absolutely. Meanwhile, 7 states prepare to receive Americans possibly exposed to the hantavirus. I've seen some very interesting interpretations of literally the word hanta. It's just like everything is almost like we're in a video game or some sort of strange surrogate reality. But here you go. A lot of people, there's tons of videos out there with people telling people that this feels all like 2020 all over again. So state and local health officials are monitoring passengers who have returned home as federal authorities prepare to evacuate the rest to Nebraska. The U.S. has entered emergency response mode as a cruise ship hit by a deadly hantavirus outbreak sails towards Tenerife, one of Spain's Canary Islands, where it will evacuate nearly 150 passengers on board, including at least 17 Americans. State and local health officials in the U.S. are monitoring at least 8 passengers who disembarked on April 24th and returned home. For the time being, those individuals are not being told to isolate since they have not developed symptoms. As early as Sunday, global health authorities will help transport passengers still on board the ship, all of whom are currently asymptomatic, to the respective home countries. Passengers will be taken to a completely isolated, cordoned-off area in Tenerife, then board guarded vehicles to transport them to a section of a local airport that will also be cordoned off. Virginia Barcones, Spain's head of emergency services, said on Thursday. And then it goes into the states where the people are going, but the flight itself is going to land at Offutt Air Force Base in Omaha, Nebraska, and the repatriated passengers will then be transported to the National Quarantine Unit at Nebraska's Medical Center in Omaha. It's unknown how long the quarantine will last. This is just something that none of us want to see or hear anything about in reality.
No, it's pretty creepy, pretty gory, pretty bad.
Yes, and again, guys, thank you for making sure you're subscribed and the thumbs up. And if you do leave a comment, it always helps the algorithm. At least they say so. Here you have Iran firing missiles at UAE's Fujairah oil refinery. Black smoke goes up into the sky. Well, yeah, we certainly know there seems to be a war on all the energy infrastructure components when it comes to gas and oil. We could see this list. I mean, Australia, Pakistan, Russia, India, Texas, Romania, Iraq, Russia again, Vietnam, and Louisiana. And, this just that and food. Everything to affect energy and the food system has been under attack for a very long time, and it seems to be ramping up.
Yeah, it's definitely getting worse.
Yeah, absolutely. And here you have farmers will have to stop keeping cows, but these energy and water consuming data centers are allowed. And then there's one that caught fire in the Netherlands, Almery, in the Netherlands caught fire. You know, we did hear that there was one that was canceled. And that is, in our minds, a good sign because we are definitely not pro data centers.
No, we don't. You know, the data centers, there's something else about them. There's something that I think we're going to find out very soon what the real agenda is behind it, and it's not going to be good. Now, I did see some good news where there was one that was canceled. I think it was in New Jersey. Was it last night? Might have been earlier. Might even be a little bit old news, but I saw that and I was excited that, you know, at least one got canceled.
Mm-hmm. And thank you, Robbie, for reminding people to hype the videos. I've been doing that to all the smaller channels that I follow, trying again to help out the little guys out there because we do need all the help we can to get through the algorithm mysteries. Protein powder shortage threatens America's biggest food craze. Companies are now grappling with whether to raise prices at a time consumers are already reeling from a prolonged period of inflation. I literally paid pretty much double what I had paid in the past for 5 pounds of organic whey protein powder. Whey is easily assimilated by the body. It's very usable, easily digested. And, you know, it's hard to find super clean sources of protein. And this is also at a time when people are realizing that carbohydrates are not really your friends, not in most cases. You know, some carbs, sure. But, you know, again, it's not fats, which were so vilified, again, by the system, going back to the food pyramid back in the 70s and 80s. Everything became fat-free. You know, it became replace your butter with margarine, with all sorts of chemicals, oil derivatives, and no thank you. Real butter is a blessing. And again, try to keep things as simple as possible. When you buy something that is processed, hopefully it only has 1, 2, or 3 ingredients. As soon as you get into artificial colors, artificial dyes, and or, you know, things like sugar or high fructose corn syrup, especially being one of the primary ingredients, to me it's a no-no.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a no-no.
Most people are suffering from a lot of inflammation in the body, and simple sugars inflame. It's just that simple.
Yeah, I mean the stomach and the brain and, you know, everything throughout the body, it starts in the stomach, and when we eat those foods it inflames the stomach, and, you know, a lot of our hormones they start to formulate right there, and then they're unable to formulate.
The dearth of supply is leading to higher prices. Standard whey protein powders prices have increased by more than 50% since January. Holy cow. I think the last time I bought some was probably in February. Yeah, you know, that's crazy. 50%. Maybe a lot of people, preppers, etc., have been a little bit like Chicken Little. You know, hey, you better stock up now because this and that's going to happen. And it didn't really ever happen. But what happened is the slow creeping and crawling upward. That hasn't gone back down. It really hasn't. You know, food prices have kind of kept escalating. Sure, little things at certain times like eggs had peaked much higher. Then they came back down. But overall, man, your grocery bill, you go and you get 2-3 bags and you come away and it might be $150. Gets pretty depressing, really. So again, this is part of where we are going to try to grow and produce as much food as we can on our own. I know everybody's in a different place. If I took a survey with you guys, how many of you guys would you say are in an urban environment, suburban environment, or country? You know, do you live out in quote unquote the country? I'd be very curious to see what the breakdown is with everybody listening, because a lot of people really they're tons of people now that are trying to do things like raise chickens in their backyard in a typical suburban environment. A lot of times that's illegal now too. And HOAs and stuff could even only give you the option to paint your house a few colors in some places, and certainly not even grow gardens. But yet it's okay to spray the glyphosate. They're not going to restrict that.
Well, and the cows can't fart, but they can put up all of these data centers too. I mean, the hypocrisy is on full blast.
Which is why they suppress channels like us. So, yeah, that's crazy. 50% increase since January? We're not even halfway into the year. That the way it's going, those prices are going to double by the end of the year. And actually, it's probably going to go higher than that. Because this is kind of escalating in a very, very in a very, very compound way, like negative compound interest, if you know what I mean. Breaking news: the biggest apartments and yachts in Monaco belong to Ukrainian. Slovak leader Andrzej Danko demands to know how many billions in Slovak aid actually reached ordinary Ukrainians, because what's turning out is the fact that these politicians seem to have been pocketing a ton of money for themselves throughout the whole period of the Ukrainian conflict. Again, starting in February of 2022, it's been 4 years of billions of dollars going into a black hole that apparently has lined a lot of politicians' pockets.
Yeah, that seems to be the trending thing as the politicians continue to get richer and we don't.
Yeah, absolutely. This is very, very true. By the way, LifeWave is a company that we have partnered with. It's a product we have used for quite a few months now and have definitely noticed benefits. This is a link. It's the first link in all of our videos that you can see. It is something that uses the power of light and activating, for in case of the X39 patch, stem cells in your body that perhaps have gone dormant. Awaken them. Stem cells are the key. They're the key to so much.
And people are using these on their animals, and we used it on Sita, and it's cleared her up completely. So I'm just so pleased with how these patches are working, and it's part of our daily ritual now.
Yeah, absolutely, and it does support the channel when you use our link as well. By the way, this is what our purchase was, as we don't have a second vehicle, and we have just a truck that's now getting a little bit older. So I thought, hey, I've had a motorcycle in the past. I'll get a very inexpensive dual sport motorcycle that can go off-road or stay on-road. And if we got to go into town for a few things instead of using the truck, I'll just take the bike, get some bags on it to load up. And, theoretically, this thing gets over 100 miles per gallon. So, this was one way that we're going to try to help fight the inflation. And I did commute on a motorcycle for a couple of years, and it did save me some money. Of course, they can be dangerous, so drive safely and watch out for others if you're on a bike.
Wear bright clothes.
Yes, I'm all dressing in neon orange now. And yellow, yes. This may go down in UFO history. The first batch of UAP related files have come out. I think actually, there's a lot of stuff here. This is it right here, war.gov/UFO. And you got things like this. It's a lot of reports. People are going through it en masse. Has there been anything mind-blowing? I don't think so yet. But we were warned about that it's not necessarily going to be mind-blowing revelations. It's like they're drawing this out with a particular time frame in mind. And, again, I think that they keep most of their cards close to their vest. So they know things. We may know things that they know. But in general, the public, the general public most likely doesn't have a clue to some of the more exotic information that's out there. But I think more and more people are coming online and understanding that they have to. They have to put this out there. They have to let us know certain things before they become apparent to us from other ways.
Thank you so much, Miss Diana. She says, thank you for what you do and for sharing your awareness. Much love from James and Diana. Thank you so much, you guys. That just helps it allows us to do what we're doing today. And thank you so much, you guys. We really appreciate it. A lot is coming out, and we're doing our best to stay on top of things and really bring things to you that we feel matter, things that are important to your day-to-day life, things that you might want to know. And this is how we do that. And it's not just about that. It's about bringing people together in the group chats. And we have some amazing energy that we do at the end of every single video. So please hang out for that.
Yes, absolutely. So you have Stephen Greer here, and this is some interesting info he's putting out there. I think a lot of us have seen different scenarios in our own minds as where this is going to go.
Because we pretty much have exposed the falsehood of a fake alien invasion. Now they're going to try to pivot it to it being a holy war between humans and the agents of Satan, et cetera, and so on. So it's a very, very reckless, irresponsible, and dangerous thing that the Vice President of the United States would say that. And I am going to be quite clear with people that he knows who are on my team that cannot be allowed to be repeated. So now it's one thing, Tucker Carlson is saying that you have a lot of the far-right religious people who don't understand the cosmology and the physics of interstellar travel saying it. And it's a bunch of superstitious claptrap. Because we pretty much have exposed the falsehood of a fake alien invasion. Now they're going to try to pivot it to it being a holy war between.
So, yeah, a holy war. Think about it that way. A holy war between humans and the agents of Satan. This is the Lam, description of Lam, by the way, that was a being that Crowley contacted. Aleister Crowley, interestingly enough, was somebody that Cindy was able to get in contact with on the other side. He has not taken another body yet. He basically got pulled in by the reptilians into a lot of negative karma. And so he's doing his preparations, and he's going to have to work off some of that negative karma. I was thinking, let me know, guys, if you're interested. I could do some shorts talking about different ways to interpret some biblical passages in a different light, like from, say, the Sanatana Dharma perspective. Again, when it talks about storing up your treasures in heaven, what are they really talking about? They're talking about understanding the law of karma, the law of cause and effect. So if you are doing good and you're trying your best to be the best you, i.e. things like, okay, you're on the street, little old lady pulled something out of her pocketbook and her wallet falls down. Obviously, if you grab it, bring it to her, say, ma'am, you lost this, that's going to be good karma. She might give you something, she might not, but it's just the right thing to do. And it does build up karma credits, per se. And I think we should keep that in mind. Every time, this really hit me big many, many years back. And it was really, I think, the prime thing that shifted me to where I became aware of like the little things that I would do that were not instilling positive karma. I became more aware of that, and it really helped me to understand that I want to put out good, because who doesn't want good coming back to them? So if you're always putting out good, trying to be the best version of you, understanding there is a law of cause and effect, that's really what the Bible is talking about there. Storing up your treasures in heaven, because again, the currency of this reality is karmic.
And this world is reflective. So whatever you put out, you're going to get back eventually at some point. So it is like looking at one big mirror. So if someone really bothers you, if someone's bothering you, you just cannot get that person off your mind. There's something inside of them, and it has to do with you. So, whenever you're pointing the finger at someone else, there's always like 3, sometimes 4, depending on the hand position, pointing back at you. And I think that's something we all need to remember. And there's nothing wrong with doing random acts of kindness. I mean, that feeds your own soul. It actually raises the oxytocin hormone in your body, which is very, very good for well-being.
See, Israel says, I totally agree with the positive karma. I experience the fruits of this every day. I mean, we've seen it so many times when we first moved to a different state and we had to register our truck. We haven't not had things, but we're not wealthy, just that simple. And then all of a sudden it came out that it's going to cost like $2,800 or $3,000 to register our truck in a new state, because that state basically charged us tax on a vehicle that we purchased in a different state. That blew my mind, and we didn't really have the extra to spare. So all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it popped up, and it was truly, this is how the universe works. It really is. If people would understand that every time you're trying to help somebody else, you get blessed back. You really do.
Indeed.
So here we go. UFO Files bombshell: claim of 4-foot aliens in spacesuits and helmets. Witness account describes 3.5 to 4 foot tall aliens wearing spacesuits and helmets. There's a lot of very old documents that are coming out. And, this is going back to 65, 66, and talking about an old event where these humanoid beings were described as 3.5 to 4 feet tall, dressed in spacesuits and helmets. And, a lot of people that were part of the sightings like this, usually they turn out to be not drunk, actually upstanding citizens that just are almost embarrassed to say what they've seen.
Yeah, that's so true.
So you're going to have a lot of new old things or old new things coming out, rehashing different things. This is a FBI graphic depicting an alleged bronze metallic UFO reported back in September of 2023. There's been millions of sightings. Another FBI file detailed an interview with a drone pilot who claimed to have seen a mysterious linear object September 2023. I really find the fascinating stuff, the ancient ones, and where the ancient ones are noted, again, like the 1565 Battle of Nuremberg. Now that is really wild stuff. And then you have this, which is becoming much more interesting to more people with all the disclosure.
There's a story that caught our attention. We're talking about a number of U.S. scientists, some connected to very sensitive research, who have died or disappeared. Let's break down what we know so far. We're going to start.
And as we know, this list keeps going on and on and on and growing. And even some other kind of cold cases where people can see tie-ins. Well, who is this that's doing this? Well, obviously, it's part of the system that doesn't want to be exposed. That should be just very, very self-evident.
Looking at where, so many of them are happening in New Mexico, and, the ones that are missing, they left their house without their phone, their keys, without a wallet, without anything, just gone. And, even one lady, they were out hiking, and a woman wasn't even 25 feet behind her friend, and her friend turned around, and the one that's missing now she's just gone. She just disappeared. Absolutely nothing left, not a sign, not a trace. And it just sounds so much like the missing 411 in some cases. they're just gone. And what are we to think with so many changes going on, and what we're going to be talking about here in a minute? I think that very well could have something to do with it. You know, these folks know something. They knew something. And some were unable to be contained. And unfortunately, I think that was their demise, is because they couldn't stay quiet. So in a world that's so difficult right now, if you're one that's telling the truth, it's dangerous right now. It's dangerous to tell the truth, and it's dangerous to know things. And it's unfortunate, but that's the world we live in right now.
It is. And I don't know, maybe Miss Jen can tell us, is Duchesne, Utah? Duchesne, Utah? Well, this was Utah. And people caught weird lights. That's weird. I mean,
That's weird.
That's weird.
Like a ship,
I think there's a lot of ships trying to make themselves known.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't that whole cloud just feel like it's emanating? It's just one big ship.
With all this talk now, the thing is, people are noticing more of these odd events, and they're videotaping. And I'm grateful for that, because, is this? What is this? A ship? Is it the second sun? Is it the Nemesis system coming in? Here you go. The resemblance between the alleged star UFO that leaked a few months ago and the newly released Pentagon video. That's pretty clear, man. That is really clear. It could be a drone. I mean, it could even be built by somebody here on Earth, a regular human, sure. But then if you start to see it move at amazing speeds, that's something else.
Yeah, it looks kind of, I mean, it's curious. It's so spiky. I mean, is it a weapon?
Yeah, it's weird because, then again, you have this video. It almost reminds me, too, of the chaos sphere, if you're familiar with that. It's really weird, but there's so much coming out right now. It's really exciting. This is from Turkey, a UFO transformer. And then this over here is where it's been cleared up. Everything that we've seen in the movies, like Transformers, there's a reason for that. Somebody's either channeling, whether they know it or not, or they're part of the disclosure.
Well, I think this is really cool because a lot of people are going to be tapping into their channeling abilities and realizing, hey, where did that come from? It comes from somewhere. The only way we can see it is if it's there. And this thing is really, really wild. I mean, yikes. Now, I think what makes me feel creeped out is when I do see them like change like that in air. It just feels like they're getting their weapons ready.
Well, this kind of does look kind of weapon-like in some ways. Actually, in the up position, this really reminds me of Vimana. I'll dig up. It looks just like some of the ancient Indian, Hindu Vimana pictures that you see. And, images leaked from Apollo 11 mission, mysterious object on the moon's surface catching attention. Again, it's been so debunked in so many people's minds of all the Apollo missions, and Stanley Kubrick doing all the filling, and then what to make of things like there was one case where they had reported seeing all sorts of objects that looked like fireworks going off on the 4th of July. And then it was said, no, that was just like foam or debris from a previous ship itself. What do you make of that? Or how about when they stepped on the moon and it rang like a bell? Why would they do that if it was completely fake and scripted? Well, because again, they want to let you know, they have to let you know some of the truth. The moon, again, many people believe the moon is literally a mothership. And that's where the Watchers watched us from.
I know, pretty crazy stuff coming to the forefront.
Yeah, and it's going to just keep going up in intensity. Some stuff feels really fake, honestly. And, here you go. This is one of the Pentagon videos, an object that defies all laws of gravity. Yeah, again, we have been kept very, very backward, even comparing our knowledge today to the knowledge of our ancient ancestors. Again, we have kind of devolved instead of evolved in so many ways. And here's another object being followed by a helicopter, whether it's a helicopter or a lot of times a fighter jet. You'll see this often where they're keeping an eye on something and they're watching it.
Oh, I know. And what's up with that? I think it is good that even though we are all aware of this stuff, it is coming into mainstream. It needed to. And I think the curiosity and what people are thinking and feeling, it's definitely going to make itself known. There could be a lot of people that are just kind of stunned right now that don't know what to think because they're being forced to look at it. And maybe their only response is just to kind of sit back and watch for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. It is fascinating. This was Germany, by the way. And here's another video of a weird object way up there. Again, in our world now, there's so many drones out there. It seems like everybody on YouTube has a drone. We don't actually use a drone, but maybe in the future we should do a little branching out. What does this look like? A little angel up there? Oh man, there's just so much of this stuff. It's just like so much to sort through.
Mm-hmm. I know, and Emma asks a very important question. What was astrology like before the moon? I am going to say it was probably much more balanced.
Absolutely. Everything about our reality was much more balanced before the moon. The moon is literally the cause of lunacy in many cases. There's a reason why it comes from that origin. And, these look like pool noodles up there.
Yeah,
or they look exactly like some bacteria under a slide under a microscope.
I know, a couple of pool noodles. That's a good one. I don't know. What are those? Are they just change form plasma beings, and they're just sort of in that form right now?
Giant peppermint candy canes, maybe. And then we get to, how about all those photos where people have seen two suns? We did a lot early on, 2017 to 2020. Actually, right before The Plague Upon the Land came out, we did a lot talking about second sun photos, hidden planets. We did get from the guides that there are many bodies, planetary and also other stars, that are being blocked from us, being blocked from our view and our knowledge because it would ruin the paradigm. We worked with, WSO. It was Steve from WSO. We did quite a few shows with him. And that's actually, I think that's how we ended up meeting Wayne. Our Wayne Steiger was through Steve at WSO. And then we also met, what was it? Not David Dubine. We knew him before. Real nice guy. He has a channel too, and it's slipping my mind right now too, but he talks also a lot about things, including the Nemesis system. Nemesis is a hypothetical red dwarf or brown dwarf, originally postulated in 1984 to be orbiting the sun at a distance of 95,000 AU, 1.5 light years, somewhere beyond the Oort cloud, to explain a perceived cycle of mass extinctions in the geological record, which seem to occur more often at intervals of 26 million years. Well, there's other intervals that are much shorter than the 26 million years. There's cycles within cycles. So if you look at it in a certain light, right, we have the four yugas in the Hindu system. And we just came out of the Kali Yuga, but you could say that we're in the dark age of the Bronze Age right now. And then that will move up to a different period of more of a Bronze Age of a Bronze Age, and then Silver Age of a Bronze Age, a Golden Age of a Bronze Age, and then we'll go to the Silver Age, and we'll start with the darker age of the Silver Age, if it makes a sense. It's kind of like the residual energy of each previous yuga will dissipate away as time goes on. And other energies, other ways of living, because each one of the yugas gives us a totally different experience here on Earth. In the Dark Age, again, we were really in the dark. We didn't have a clue. And most of our information was wrong. It's just that simple. And we are starting to discover now just how wrong we are. In 2017, Sarah Sadavoy and Stephen Stoller argued that the sun was probably part of a binary system at the time of its formation, leading them to suggest there was probably a Nemesis a long time ago. Such a star would have separated from the binary system over 4 billion years ago, meaning it could not be responsible for the more recent cycles of mass extinctions. More recent theories suggest that other forces, like close passage of other stars or the angular effect of the galactic gravity plane working against the outer solar orbital plane, which is the Shiva hypothesis, by the way, may be the cause of orbital perturbations of some of the outer solar system objects. In 2010, researchers found evidence in the fossil record confirming the extinction event periodicity, originally identified in 1984, but at a higher confidence level and over a time period nearly twice as long. However, in 2011, researchers analyzed the ages of known craters in the Earth's surface and found strong evidence against periodic impacts, concluding that the earlier findings based on small samples were statistical artifacts. So, the infrared astronomical satellite IRAS failed to discover Nemesis in the 80s. The two-mass astronomical survey, which ran from 1997 to 2001, failed to detect an additional star or brown dwarf in the solar system. Using newer and more powerful infrared telescope technology, able to detect brown dwarfs in temperature as low as 150 K, out to a distance of 10 light years from the sun, the Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer has not detected Nemesis. In 2011, David Morrison, a senior scientist at NASA known for his work in risk assessment of near-Earth objects, has written that there is no confidence in the existence of an object like Nemesis that had been detected. Now again, NASA is never a straight answer, and they are part of the system that's in effect and has been governing this planet really for thousands of years. There's different thoughts on the orbit of Nemesis, and we do know there's a lot of binary systems out there, and maybe even trinary systems. Yes, then we got that whole wonderful Netflix movie about three-body problem, or a little series, and that was one of the rare, genuinely good series that I'm actually looking forward to finding more of, because I think they gave us a lot in that three-body problem. But there are other sources that talk of this, and there are other people that think that this is really real. And in fact, there is also a Sumerian cuneiform tablet that goes into some detail about that. As you can see here, this is an article from ZME Science. This is from 2017. The sun likely has a lost twin called Nemesis, as do most stars like our sun. Yes, the reality is, stars similar to our sun, it's really typical on average to have a sister star. The case of the vanishing sun. Did our star have a twin? Recent theory posits that our sun may have started its life with a binary companion, but what happened to it? And then this study shows there was a second sun in the solar system used to orbit the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter around 200 million years ago. Well, wait a minute. Isn't that where, our Tiamat was? And then we also have references to the war between Tiamat and Marduk in the Sumerian tablets. Was there a whole second system, and was there some sort of cosmic collision, and it's just one system now? When you look at certain things, there has been unrest in our system. The planets are not all perfectly straight. They're not all, orbiting perfectly. In fact, when you look at the planets, you have Venus, which is rotating in the reverse direction. And in Venus, a day is longer than a year. It literally is. Venus is almost identical size to Earth, almost exactly. But yet they tell us it couldn't be any more different. What's really going on here? We do understand that our own galaxy is merging with another. That's happening as we speak. So there's a lot here that it feels like it's been hidden. Harvard physicists and astronomers reveal a second sun may have existed in our solar system. So a lot of people have talked about this. A lot of channeled material has said this is really the case. And then there are some myths and legends that also lend credence to this being a possibility. Here you go. NASA shocked a second sun is forming in our solar system. The famous Oort cloud. And, again, there's a lot of things about our solar system that are very anomalous.
I mean, what are we to do with all this information? And, speaking of astrology, during my study, it was pointed out to me that there are so many missing pieces. Astrology is like a big puzzle, and we are all piecing it together little by little by little. And I do feel strongly that the reason so many pieces are missing is because the truth of it is there's a lot that the controllers don't want us to know. So at some point, astrology was kind of picked through, and only so much was allowed to go out. Now, I think if we had all of the missing pieces, I think life would be amazing. I wouldn't it be amazing? I think every single person, every living being on this planet would know something about astrology so they could navigate their own life. I think that's how it should be. That's how it should have been. But I think we're going back to that place where things are going to get better.
So NASA and astronomers were monitoring unusual gravitational distortions in the farthest regions beyond Pluto, often referred to as the Kuiper Belt, and the more distant Oort cloud. Instead of a minor planet or cometary body they anticipated, researchers detected a colossal mass, one radiating heat and light faintly, but unmistakably. Spectral analysis showed it was not a typical planet or an asteroid. Early assessments suggested the mass was undergoing processes similar to those observed in protostars, the early stages of star formation. In other words, it appeared as if a second sun was beginning to ignite. So typically stars form from collapse of vast clouds of gas and dust under their own gravity. In a mature solar system like ours, this kind of stellar nursery activity is not expected. Again, I think the science is way off. I think everything they've given us has been to lead us down dead ends. But every now and then they got to give us something. They got to give us something because they're on a time frame. They had Agenda 21, then Agenda 2030. 2030 is a big year. As we've shared with you guys, we've literally gotten that 2035 is about when the giants come back to Earth, literally. Return of some of the Anunnaki. It could just be a few. It could just be a handful, again. But what's their purpose? It's to monitor and oversee the smart cities. Literally, take control and start to run the cell cities. when you look at this, I think, again, they want to herd as many of us into those cities as possible. And I do think when they talk about salvation, they're thinking about salvaging as many human slaves as possible.
Yeah, there's a lot of information that's finally coming out now that I think we needed to hear just in time, or maybe not us specifically, but I think a lot of people needed to hear and know this information about where we come from. And, I think I think it would be very useful if these tablets were put together in a way where they could be introduced into schools, because there were many different beings that they tried to form, out of the clay of the earth. so they say. I mean, they tried to form more humans that were work oriented, and then other humans that were more cerebral oriented, and then other humans that were just completely about servitude, and then they went through all these experiments with all these different types of beings. I shouldn't even say humans, different types of beings, just to see if they would work or not. And I think eventually they really got themselves kind of in trouble, karmically speaking, and they had to do something about it. And that karma is unfolding right now. And I think we're about to find out so many things that we need to know about ourselves. It's like coming from a very interesting family. So for example, just, if you do come from an interesting family, but you don't know your mom, you don't know your dad, you don't know about any cousins or any siblings out there, you don't know anything about anyone because you were just sort of adopted out and left to go on your own, nothing about your blood family. I mean, wouldn't it be exciting if then all of a sudden you knew what you needed to know about your blood family and what they're like, what their characteristics are, and wouldn't that help you and your children? I know for me it would really help me. But I think they cut us off from that gnosis because maybe we would be a threat to them. That's kind of what I feel. I feel if we knew what we're made of and where we're from, we would be a threat, and that's a problem for them.
So there is one tablet that has only been translated. Actually, it was originally translated about 100 years ago, and then it was shelved. And then another scientist looked at it and, thought this is really some fascinating stuff. You got to realize, of the Sumerian tablets that we talk about so much, the ones that have shown us, and given us the perspective of the Anunnaki literally being here on Earth, literally giving us the whole concept of kingship, bringing governance to the planet, and everything that we have. It really is coming from them. And this one tablet here, it's VAT 7847, has some interesting info, and it's all about really astrology. It's all about the astrology, and also looking at the bigger system that we have. It's all about the Babylonian zodiac. It feels like one that they really don't want to be talked about. It's literally, again, it's in the Louvre, and it's just, they downplay it as, well, it's just, astrological data, etc., etc. Yeah, this is, you can see it's the stars planisphere. There are those that believe that this particular VAT 7847 is giving us information on Nemesis, on that other sun that's literally at a position behind our sun, and it stays in a locked-in orbit with our sun so that we only see it periodically. And according to some, we will possibly be able to start seeing it again in about 2 years' time. This is really interesting to think about that. If this is going to be visible again in literally 2028, that would be amazing. And we were looking at different things astrologically, there's this total solar eclipse July 22nd, 2028. That's interesting. And I gotta wonder if this is somehow related to that. Because according to some people's translations of this, this is the period where it could become visible again. And it also is that when it's visible to us, it could have an effect on our weather, and that's where we're heading into. We understand that we've been going through extreme earth changes, but really up until this point, I think, it's been a mix of natural and technology. I think at some point in time, there's going to be bigger earth changes that are not necessarily artificially enhanced. And from some people's interpretation of this, when this happens, this is when the big earth changes break out in the planet. I do think, again, that the period of time, there is a reason for Agenda 2030. Many people believe the elites are building their bunkers and all because they know there's something that's going to happen. And we've talked about many times the magnetic pole reversal, maybe an excursion, maybe a full reversal. Sometimes there's an excursion where the poles move out and then they snap back to their old position. Other times there's a full reversal, and there could be crustal displacement when that happens. What does that mean? Well, think of the Earth as like an orange. You know how it has that center part and has that white material. Think of the white material as being that area where the surface, the plates, can shift and take new positions in relation to the mantle and the magnetic part in the center of the Earth itself, which could cause very big destructive events on the surface.
This is information that's been out there for a while, but I think it's being brought back up again for a really good reason. And, what I'm picking up in my gut, maybe you're picking up something different, but what I'm picking up is there's going to be something in the skies that is so obvious. I mean, there's not going to be any hiding it. If you live on planet Earth, you're going to see something and realize that you have been lied to. That's what my gut is telling me, that this is why this is coming up again. And we need to know, and it's time to know. And the Earth, things are really going to change. So, yeah, I think it's no accident that it's crossed our paths again. And we're bringing it up to, kind of prepare people. They're doing so many things right now that just point to the fact that they want total and complete control over all humans, and it's just not nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I do see some mention of astrology charts. Yes, we've done hundreds, if not thousands, of astrology charts, and when you get a reading with Cindy, you also get to utilize her perceptive abilities because, again, she's able to contact a lot of times, family members that have moved on and see things. We could go into a lot of different charts, not just the natal charts, but you can go into past life chart. You could look at your Varshafala, which is extremely important, and that's something that we look at all the time, almost on a weekly basis. We'll go into our Varshafalas charts because energetically it'll give you a breakdown on the entire year, and there's certain times that are going to be more challenging than others. Unfortunately, we have one of our dear family members, and while I'm thinking of this, I want to put out prayers for Carrie. I think he was okay with us saying his name. Cindy had done a chart and saw that he was, there was a health issue that may show up, and, it ended up showing up exactly like she saw. and he's currently in the midst of pushing back against that health issue. It is, definitely something that all of our prayers can help. So please do put out your prayers and send some healing energy to Carrie, who has been following us for a long time and definitely a beloved member of our family here. And we know he's going to overcome that as well. But again, if you do want a chart, it's evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail.com. Or if you have ever had a session with us and you have the phone number, just send us a text, because we check the emails as much as we can, but sometimes we get so busy where it takes a few days to get through all the emails. So if you do have our number, then just text. That's probably the easiest.
Right, and it's never just a chart. It's never just a chart. It's a soul alignment. It's, we get to know each other, so we get to talk about things, and it's just we have a really wonderful time whenever we get to meet one of you guys and get to know you. And and charts can get very, if there's specific things you need to know, I just need to know that beforehand, and we can figure that out during this session. But I do attuning, we do clearings, Mike does his healing energy work, so it's very productive. It's soul alignment, gets someone back on track. So if you've been off track, you want to get grounded, centered, and you want direction, need direction. It's a very, very helpful tool to have the planets to turn to and say, okay, well, you're in this spot and you'll be out of this spot in X amount of time. And, I got to tell you that when I did it, it was like breaking a spell the first time I had my chart read, and I realized something about myself, and it was so wonderful to realize, oh my gosh, so that's written in the stars. And I just let it go. I let it go. It brought me so much peace, and that's what it was for. And then I realized, okay, I have to learn how to do this so that maybe other people might benefit from realizing whatever it is, it's written in the stars. You can just have peace with it, hopefully.
This right here is an interesting piece in the newly released Pentagon UFO files. That's in the 9th page of the first file. Master Kalen Lee Ratan from the planet Corindor. A 1966 alien transmission claimed a being named Master Kalen Lee Ratan from a planet called Corindor, 400 light years away, has been secretly observing Earth. The message described these beings as spiritually evolved, technologically advanced, and deeply opposed to war manipulation and the authoritarian control on humanity. There's tons of this. There are so many beings that have interacted with people all throughout our history. And there are many, many beings out there that hate what's been done to us. They really wish for us to wake up and to shed the yoke of the dark matrix system that has kept us in the dark. Time after time, reset after reset, natural and otherwise.
Indeed.
Yeah, this is one I'm going to probably look into a little bit more. But, again, we've had so many interactions with different beings. There's way more beings out there than most people realize. It's just teeming with life out there. We've been in a quarantine zone. We've been in an off-limits zone, and we've been governed by a system that is completely authoritarian. They took complete control over us, and they fed us all these lies and distortions, and have us literally fighting ourselves. It's just a sad situation as you look at an artistic interpretation of Ezekiel's wheel. Yeah, so many angels are really things like Pleiadians and Arcturians and Andromedans and again, all different sorts of beings that are out there. And yet there really are angels too, just as there are very, very demonic beings as well as very, very good beings. This guy's got a big spot up on top of a mountain watching everything going on up in Alaska. Maybe someday we'll do a summer trip into Alaska. That would be a real cool bucket list thing. But Yeah, absolutely not in the winter.
I know where the mosquitoes are the size of birds.
Yeah, Cindy has been to Alaska, and yeah, it's something I haven't seen, but yes, absolutely beautiful territory. There's so many places just hidden from us that literally are like, well, Shangri-La, Shambhala. There's so many amazing places, many amazing beings that are part of our family here on Earth that we are not allowed to know about.
Yeah, so and there's more to our planet than we are allowed to know about, but I have a feeling we're going to know more soon.
Yeah, so when we started, I was saying, well, I've been doing this 9 years. What will 9 years from now be like? It's going to be a new world. I mean, seriously, the things that we're going to know in 9 years' time, our whole perspective, our outlook, everything about life for many, I would say most, is going to be completely changed. Completely changed. But then, you guys, you already know all this. And it's again, we've been thought of as kooks and crazies and channeling, psychic powers and gifts. Oh, yeah, right. Well, again, we just have been seeing through the lies and illusions for a much longer time, but a lot more of humanity is coming online, and there is a huge awakening.
There is, and we've been called some pretty good things, so I'm glad. We've been called some pretty interesting names, and worse than a lot of things. But anyhow, you guys are amazing. I'm so glad we can come together and do these sessions, and I want to do some dings, and let's not forget to send prayers and energy to our friend Carrie, because he's really in a struggle right now. But I want to say thank you to Israel, Miss Diana, and Heather is our newest Patreon member, and we are going to be putting together a new it's going to be a whole series of biofield tuning on Patreon. So I'm going to be starting that tomorrow. It'll be very interesting if you want to learn about biofield tuning. It's a good time. It's a pretty cool thing to learn, but it really starts with you and you focusing on you and your energy. So let's do some dings and find a happy place, and let's do this. Here we go. You guys are amazing. Source bless and namaste.
Loka samasta sukhi no bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may my own thoughts, words, acts, and deeds contribute to their happiness and the freedom for all out there. And again, may Carrie be blessed and bathed in light and love and healing energy, and may he come to whatever realizations that the higher self wants him to have, and may he come into perfect alignment and be totally healed and restored. We thank you guys so much for your support. Much love. Namaste.
Namaste.